Fast, free delivery from the Home Depot makes your projects hassle-free. Forget something you need? Visit HomeDepot.com or the Home Depot app for free delivery on millions of products, including same-day and next-day options. Get delivery at the speed you need, only at the Home Depot. How doers get more done. Order select in-stock items by 4 p.m., subject to availability. The Falcons Audible is back. The trio of the fellas. That's DJ Shockley. That's Dave Archer. I'm Derek Rackley. 2 weeks of NFL preseason action is in the books. We're knocking on the door of preseason week 3. But fellas, actually, let me rewind. Before we get to preseason week 3, we got college football starting this weekend.
Don't say it.
College football starting this weekend.
Don't say what week is it. Don't say it. Don't say what week it is.
Okay, it's the first week of the
There you
season.
go. Good. Okay, good. I hate that week
Arch,
0.
your Cyclones have got what this week?
Yeah, I got K-State, and we decided it's one of the.
You have to do an impression though. I want to hear like the people talk where they're playing it. Can you do that?
I can't. I'm not an Irish. I can't be Irish. Can you?
Look of the Irishman, the Iowa State Cyclones taking on the Guns.
This is my island.
This is my island. Yeah.
No, K-State and Iowa State. It's one of the longtime rivalries. Goes all the way back to the Big 12, Big 8. When I was playing Iowa State, Kansas State, kind of that obviously the heartland of the country, called Farmageddon.
Yeah.
So you got all the people showing up with pitchforks and rakes and stuff like that and beating each over the head. No, they don't do that. But Iowa State travels extremely well. K-State travels well, pretty well too. But Iowa State, one of those teams that travels. I don't care what the situation will be. Play in a parking lot in Lincoln, Nebraska, or wherever. Iowa State's going to have more fans than you can put in the building. And so a ton of Iowa State fans have traveled over to Ireland. I've got some of my former players, teammates, that have traveled over their families to go to Ireland and do that whole experience. They've got an alumni deal. There's all sorts of stuff going on over there, but pretty cool. Iowa State, 2 really good teams, two top 25 teams, Shock. This isn't just one of those, let's throw a couple of teams over there. We got 2 teams that probably are going to vie for potentially going to the Big 12 title game. Iowa State played in it last year.
Yeah.
You got Avery Johnson, the quarterback at K-State.
Okay.
You got Rocco Beck, the quarterback at Iowa State.
Rocco.
That is son of Anthony,
It
right?
is, son of Anthony Beck. Yeah.
So how do you feel about this game?
I like
you feel good about your clones walking out of Dublin, Ireland with the win?
That was actually pretty good, Sean.
He's a method
Hold
actor.
on. I want you to set that up again. How does he feel about his clones and where?
Dublin, Ireland.
He's a method actor, folks. He's very good. I like Iowa State's chances. The problem is that the Houston Texans has all the Iowa State receivers. There's 3 Iowa State receivers playing for Houston. We'd like to kind of grab those guys back for one game. But no, Rocco and his crew are going to go out there. Avery Johnson, outstanding player. So it should be a good game.
Yeah. I'm going to be working this weekend. I'm calling a game. It's not week, you know what you said.
Yeah.
It's the first week of the season.
Right.
I got
not
Fresno
week 0?
State at
Are
Kansas.
we not saying week 0?
Apparently, it's a curse word to Arch, so I'm staying away from it.
Well, and I think it's disrespectful to Rack that he's working on week 0. Does that mean I'm not worth anything because I'm on 0? Rack's working that week.
I'm working.
So Kansas,
brand new stadium.
Jalen Daniels back for his 35th season?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Been around for a minute.
Quarterback for Fresno State?
Who?
Kurt Warner's kid.
No, that's right. He didn't win a job. I saw that.
E.J. Warner.
Yeah.
Okay. Started his career at Temple, and then he was at Rice, and now he's at Fresno State.
Yeah.
Slinging. You know one thing I found out last night about E.J. Warner? 3rd in the country last year in attempts per game.
Oh, he going to throw it around the yard.
Sling it.
Well, yeah, but that means your plane flight is about 4 hours 5 hours down the road because they're going to be throwing it.
Yes, so I'll be working this
Good deal.
weekend, and then UGA, not till next weekend, right?
Not till next weekend. Marshall, the Thundering Herd.
But give us a little insight. The dog fans are a lot of dog fans or Falcon fans. Give us a quick synopsis on the scrimmage. You had alumni weekend. Tell us a little bit about that.
So Kirby does a great job of bringing former players back. Where I know a lot of guys we want to be still included in our own program. Kirby does a great job of bringing those guys back. I think he understands the importance of it. Alumni get to come back, watch a scrimmage because Kirby don't really allow a lot of people to watch scrimmages. He don't allow people in the stadium. A lot of great competition. This team is very young. Kirby mentioned to me a couple weeks ago, 54% of their team is either first or second year guys.
Wow.
So there's going to be a lot of guys they depend on. Obviously, Gunnar Stockton's a big part of what they want to do. They're going to have to – they change the offense up a little bit to fit what he does best. You got some stout running backs. Got an O-line that's played a lot of ball, defense. It's going to be where the interesting part comes in because that's where you're super young, 5 stars all over the place, super talented. But we'll see if that defense comes along. But knowing Coach Smart and Coach Shue, they're going to get the boys done.
Preseason number, 5 in the country?
Preseason 5.
You know
Kirby
what's
would
great?
rather be 10.
You preface this by saying that there's a lot of Georgia fans that are also Falcons fans, I'm sure, that watch this podcast as well.
sure.
I'm working in the stadium the last 2 weeks. I don't have Shock because he's big time. He's doing television. the
Come
next 2
on,
weeks.
man. Come on.
I have
Rack. Don't do me
multiple
like
people that come up and they're like,
Rack,
hey,
come on.
good job. Where's Shock? Hey,
Come on, Rack. There ain't nobody doing that.
that was pretty
Ain't
good.
no doing,
Where's
man.
DJ?
I appreciate y'all.
All right, look at here. There's
right.
a lot of people that are listening and watching and saying, is this an Atlanta Falcons podcast or is this something else that these guys
Shows you we well
have
rounded.
hijacked this show?
Yeah.
Let's get it back on the train tracks here. And let's talk a little bit about the Atlanta Falcons. As we mentioned, we wrapped up the second preseason game against the Titans. Want to ask you guys, DJ, let me start with you. Anything, meaning any portion of the game or any person stand out to you as you were up in the booth?
Yeah.
You were calling things, the
Yeah.
action. Anything stand out to you from the action in week 2?
I think one thing that stood out to me, and I love to see it go from, we talked about it last week, go from week 1 to week 2 and see the consistency was this defense continue to get after the quarterback, but also take the football away. Again, you took the ball away twice in this game. I know the other one was on special teams, but still, you got an interception because of a pressure by your rookie James Pierce Jr. coming around the edge, forcing a little bit of errant throw. If you haven't seen the interview Arch did with my man Natron Brooks, it was an awesome interview, him breaking down that particular play. And it tells you how smart these guys are, right? It tells you how these guys go through a process each and every play of what they're thinking, and I just love what he talked about. So the thing that stuck out to me was this is absolutely going to be a defense that's written all over the walls in here. We talked about it, the ball is oxygen. They want that football. We've seen in the last 2 ball games in the preseason, they're going after it, they're looking for it, they're hunting it, and you got some dudes who can go get it. So I think they had 5 3-and-outs in the ball game. That tells you this defense is, getting them either behind the chains or playing style defense and getting off the field on 3rd down, which is something that was not a big thing last season. So takeaways, Arch talked about it in our first time when we came on here about the turnover differential. This is a team that wants to improve that, and we saw in the first 2 ball games taking the football away is a big deal, giving it back to the offense.
I don't know about you guys, but when I start talking about doing this podcast or being at the games, a lot of people want to talk to me, fans, general people out in the public. They say, how are the Falcons going to be this year? I'm sure you guys get that question all the time, right? And I always answer this question. I say, in the NFL, if you want to win, you got to have a quarterback, and I think the Falcons have to improve on defense, right? That's got a pass rush, taking the football away. So you talked a little bit about a couple of those situations. Arch, are you starting to see, even though minus a lot of the starters, right?
Yeah.
You got to take this with a grain of salt. But without seeing a lot of the starters, are you seeing a little bit of a different feel, maybe even to Shock's point, on the defensive side of the ball where Jeff Ulbrich is transitioning this team to get more after the quarterback with the pass rush and taking the football away? Are you starting to feel that a little bit more?
Yeah, I think we all feel that the philosophy of attack is coming out in the guys that are having a chance to play. And you just mentioned that the guys that will probably play 2 Sundays or 3 Sundays from now aren't on the field yet for the most part. But you do feel that there's a philosophy that's permeating practice, which the main guys are playing, and it's now it's trickling down to the guys that are playing in these preseason games that this is our style. We're getting up the field, we're going to get after people, and we're going to create havoc, which is going to in turn force turnovers, force those situations. So I think that feeling is certainly permeating all the guys. When you start talking about a roster that has 90 guys on it, you don't have to do the math. Pretty easy that there's a good number. 1/3 of these guys are not going to be on the team. Yeah. So, but it's still trickling down to those players. So I think that's a good thing that they're absorbing, because these are guys that aren't getting a ton of reps in practice. That are their reps are coming in the game, and if you're feeling that from those guys, boy, you really like maybe what you're probably going to get from the guys that are going to play against Tampa on that Sunday.
Speaking of reps, guys, I mean, I always like to talk about this because I got two former quarterbacks here, and one guy that got a lot of reps, again, was Easton Stick. And he's in a situation where he's competing for a roster spot, much like everybody is on this roster. I mean, there is a handful of guys we know are going to be on the team, but he's competing for a roster spot, and he's in a peculiar situation because he's probably competing for the third, but we still don't know exactly what could happen with Kirk Cousins in the future. Again, not trying to speculate. However, extended time for him due to an injury in the second half, but he's played a lot of football, so you've seen 2 weeks of action. Yeah. I want to get the review from our former quarterbacks. What did you see from Easton Stick this past week?
I thought first game he looked really good. Obviously, he had only 3 incompletions in the ball game, had a touchdown, led a 2-minute drive. All the things that you want to see out of your quarterback, he did that. Then coming the second game, he had a little adversity. Threw an interception, had another interception that got called back. So in that moment, you're saying, okay, here's an adversity. How's this guy going to respond? Is this guy going to bounce back and play at a higher level? And I thought he did that. So I love to see the two variances of types of games that he had to play in. And it gives you, I think, a wherewithal that if this guy needed to come in, this guy could. And I think for Easton Stick, his only job is to make it hard on them to not put him on a practice squad or they have to keep him. Because like you said, you never know what's going to happen with Kirk Cousins. But at the end of the day, this is a guy who's put some good stuff on tape. He's shown the ability to be able to run an offense, be efficient, move the football, get him in the end zone, and take care of it for the most part. So for a lot of teams, you would love to have a guy like that who can be your backup, who knowing if he comes in the ball game, he can lead you to where you need to. So I think Easton's done a good enough job to be a part of this 53-man roster. Set aside whatever happened with Kirk Cousins, I think he's played well enough to have that look and have that opportunity.
Dave, I think one of the things you look at from a quarterback's perspective, especially in preseason games, is what is his ability to manage everything that's going on? Does he get the play in? Does he communicate it to the guys in the huddle? Do they get out of the huddle to the line of scrimmage? Are we dealing with play clock issues? How is he managing the offense? To me, it doesn't look like there's been a whole lot of hiccups in that. You could try to dissect, especially in the last game, some things that happened on the field. But from a higher level perspective, front office and coaching staff, you wanted to see how is he managing the offense when he's in the game. Would you agree that he's done a pretty good job of that?
Yeah, you're dead on, Rack. I think that he's done a really good job of getting guys lined up, getting the play called, all the little administrative stuff you have to do before the ball snapped. And then he takes it to the next level as a quarterback. He's doing a pretty good job with his pre-snap looks and then confirming once he gets into his drop, is that what I saw? If it wasn't what I saw, then I need to adjust that. And then the thing that I look to, Shock, is the ball's coming out on time.
Right.
Now, he had a couple picked off in this game. You mentioned, I thought he got a little bit I don't know how to say this. The receiver didn't run the route as crisply as you would have liked, and you saw the double pump.
Yeah.
The receiver was supposed to hook up. He started to go the flat. Stick was going to turn it loose and then had to reload it, and subsequently feet weren't right. He threw the ball behind. Yeah. So that's where you hope your quarterback, okay, the look was wrong, the receiver ran the wrong route. Now I've got to minimize the damage. I can't let it turn into something really bad, which it did. It turned into the worst possible thing, a pick six. So that part of it you don't like. But I think for the most part, leading around all the things that we've seen in the 2 preseason games, I like where he is, and I would agree with Shock that he's a guy that's shown that if you needed him to step in for a guy that went down in the game, or is he your backup if you had to go that route, he's very capable of being that guy and moving you offensively. The problem is if you've got a math problem, guys. You've got a math problem in that who are you going to keep on this roster? I tried to go through it last night, and I pared it down to about 65 guys, and some of those guys obviously will end up on the practice roster because you get that bump with the practice roster, but you've got to be able to get them through waivers. And who can you get through waivers to get back? Are they going to agree to come back? Is Easton Stick one of those guys? So it's really a very interesting problem. It's a good problem to have because you got guys that can play. But you're also going to expose guys potentially to another roster that you'd like to have on your team. You just can't. You don't have enough room.
Well, and obviously one more opportunity for him in the final preseason game to, and that's what they always say, either make this roster or make one of the other 31. Because, if the player is good enough and he feels like you can help the team, you want to keep him. But if the math problem is not there, at the end of the day, you want the player to have a chance to go play somewhere else. And maybe he's put enough on tape to do that.
Rack, you do an awesome job of hosting this Falcons Audible. But you're a guy who played in this league. You're a guy who knows what it should look like. Who has stood out to you? Because you sit up there at a high-perched area as well, can see a lot of different things. You see the film, you watch it as well. Who are some of the guys, or maybe a guy that's kind of stuck out to you to give the Falcons a little bit of something to think about?
One's interesting to me has been Dylan Drummond. He's been one that obviously they've gotten the ball into his hands in the passing game. They've also let him run it a little bit, and he's one of those. Again, I start to think about the wide receiver position, and I'm like, how many spots are there, right? Like, is he done enough to show, or is this a potential practice squad, and then he's your guy that gets, a potential elevation and then back down? Because obviously that's part of the game now. So I've looked there. I'm really intrigued by what's going to happen with DeMarco Helms, because we've got a really stacked safety room right now. But after the first game, watching him lay wood to people out there was just like, that's the physicality that you want to see. I'll be honest with you, there's been some sloppy stuff that I didn't like. There's been too many penalties going on, and I think that's one area of preseason that frustrates you as a coach, is you want to be able to stay. It's okay if you have 4 penalties for 35 yards, if you have 5 for 50 or something like that. But when you start getting into 6, 8, 10 penalties a game, you're working against yourself, and that's going to hurt you when you get into the regular season. That's not singling out one individual person, but I know that in meeting rooms, that's something that's probably frustrating them, is we got to clean up our technique and our concentration level to minimize these penalties, because once you start working behind the change in the National Football League, your ability to get first downs and score points gets extremely difficult. So
how important is it in your mind when you've got core special teams guys that have shown they can play defensively? And I'm gonna point out a couple guys. Josh Woods, has shown solid linebacker play. Core special teams guy, a special teams captain-esque type player. Mike Ford, a guy that plays the nickel, plays the corner, but he's probably one of the best gunners in the National Football League. And you pair him with Kadarius Hodge, who you double in there to take away the punt return. D'Angelo Malone, who has shown that he can play the edge, but also they've played him in the inside linebacker some, trying to find that home for him defensively. He led us in special teams tackles last year. So where do you think the evaluation goes with those guys? It's extremely important, because you mentioned a guy like Josh Woods, who had such an outstanding first half against Detroit. I mean, he was everywhere. He was making tackles all over the field. But then you talk about what is his contribution level? What is his importance when you get to the regular season? And I always think about, kickoff return has changed, right? You're not seeing as much action there. But you know what hasn't changed? Punt team. True. Okay? So there's no funky rules on punt where balls aren't getting returned, and getting downfield and being able to make tackles on punt team is still extremely important. And so if you got a guy like Josh Woods that can play your guard or tackle position on punt team, and you feel confident with his ability to go downfield, get off of blocks at the line and make plays, make tackles, then that can earn you a roster spot, especially if he's shown that if we get a rash of injuries in a game, we can throw him in. And not only can he be serviceable, he can make some plays for us. So that's an area where I think a lot of fans may not understand the evaluation process is the special teams players. Like, you might have a coach that comes out and says, I have to have this guy. He's that important on punt team and on kickoff coverage. I have to have him. And so he might be on the team at the expense of somebody else, but it's that important to the success of special teams. Well, you almost feel like that from a coaching staff standpoint, Shock, that they're trying. They know how important Josh Woods is. They know how important Mike Ford is. They are obviously realize how important maybe D'Angelo Malone is, that they're trying to make sure that they are that guy that hey, you know what? This guy's more than serviceable. We can plug him in at the nickel. We could put this guy inside linebacker if we needed to. Would you agree with that?
Oh, I mean, a great example is D'Angelo Malone. The first game against Detroit, he played stand-up linebacker. Second ball game, he was back on the edge. It shows you, we got versatility. We can use this guy at a couple of different spots along with that third phase in special teams. That's absolutely going to help us. How about the third tight end, Teagan, comes in, first play, gets a strip sack. Get a stripped fumble on that special team to get the ball back. I mean, certain little things like that go a long way for coaches when trying to decide where this guy can land. But like you said, like you mentioned, Rack, if you have the production, you have the ability to play multiple spots and be a key contributor, that goes a long way for a staff.
It's kind of the sign you look for. If you watch these preseason games, you're kind of trying to find out, okay, what am I looking for? I'm looking at the third quarterback. I'm looking at maybe the 8th and 9th receivers. But look at those pieces as to those guys, some name brand guys that are playing on defense or offense that are contributing in that area, and then obviously expanding out to what they do from a special team standpoint, might give you a little view into how the roster math goes. Because you're looking, okay, how many corners are we can keep? 4, we can be 5 corners. Are we keeping 3 tight ends? How many backs are we keeping? 4 backs? Find those guys on special teams, and are they contributing at a high level there, and then have that crossover to help on offense and defense.
One question to add to, just because you're talking about the numbers and what Arch is trying to get you guys to understand is there's a certain number that most teams take at a certain position. Let's just take receiver for instance. I think we know who the top 4 or 5 guys are, and Casey Washington as the 5th guy. For this staff, do they go into this saying Jamal Agnew is a receiver, or we count him as something else?
Yeah.
You just talked about our man, Drummond making big plays. How close is the margin between Chris Blair and Dylan Drummond? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about most teams usually keep about 6 receivers. Maybe you got a couple more on, practice squad over it. But that happens at every single position is what Archie's talking about. So you got to do the math of which guys you think can fit what your roster needs. And Arch mentioned it. Well, you got to add another guy. You had a third quarterback that maybe take away from. Maybe you can't have another DB. So there's so many factors that go into it.
It's tough.
And I'm glad I ain't raw there.
Well, you guys kind of alluded to it, and I don't want to just completely fast forward past the game this weekend, but we've got roster cut down coming next week.
Yeah.
And this is where a lot of fans actually do get excited, because now they start to realize, okay, who are the players that we can actually pull for, and who are the players that are going to help us get to a division title, get into the postseason, and make a run ultimately at a Super Bowl championship. And so I'm not going to ask you guys about individual players. Let's talk about what's some of the most intriguing position groups that you're going to be looking at from what you've seen in 2 games, knowing what's coming up against Dallas. But this position group looks really intriguing, where your eyes are going to go next week, DJ, to say, who did they end up keeping?
I think the number one spot for me is the position that where this game has changed so much, and where you got to have this guy, he has to be a dude. And I think it's that nickel spot. You talk about D. Alford, who's played really well this preseason. Then also you got the young, talented Billy Bowman Jr., who you see Raw and Oprah get excited about more opportunity he gets to play. And both guys have played pretty well. They've had moments in there. But I think first that's where my eye is going to go. Which guy can flash? Can he do enough to surpass D. Alford, who's played a lot in this league, who's played a lot in the slot, who knows what the receivers inside this division are like? And you got this young rookie who, talented, of course, did a lot in college, has all the accolades, but is he ready for that prime time of coming to the National Football League and being that guy? Now, he looks the part for sure. You see Billy Bowman, you say, you know what, this guy can start. He can be in the run game. He can be in the box, but he also is 4'4" He can run with anybody too. So that nickel spot is so fascinating to me. You got 2 very talented players in that spot vying for it. You're talking about Mike Ford, who's also a guy who, a part of that kind of dilemma as well, who's in there as well. It's so many, I think, position battles like that, but that one really intrigues me.
All right, so he's got the nickel position on defense. What position
It's a good
group?
one.
Which position group kind of intrigues you as far as who are they going to end up keeping?
Yeah, the intrigue, it might be the wrong word for me in my group, but I wore my trucker hat for a reason.
Okay, here we go.
That means you're in the trenches. He in the trenches.
I got the trucker lid on.
He in the trenches.
I need my offensive line to come on now. And I'm worried, guys. I'm worried. I'll tell you, Storm Norton has not played in the preseason. He's been banged up. I think he's going to be ready for opening day. He's your swing tackle. Probably played some last year. Did an outstanding job. He's played in 65 games in his NFL career, started 22, so you love the experience, and he can play both sides, or you love the versatility. but we just haven't gotten enough going in the run game. Got a little something going this last week. Nathan Carter showed a little something. I thought Nathan Carter threw his hat in the ring to be that third running back potentially on the roster. He had a nice little run in there where he made a couple of moves, got a couple of good blocks on the interior. I think Kyle Hinton got up on the linebacker and he was able to get in behind and had that nice run for a touchdown. He's got a little shake and a little wiggle to him, which I like. I think Carlos Washington is a guy, unfortunately, has been banged up, that I thought this was going to be a huge camp for him, that to put his foot forward as potentially being a guy that they keep around because he's been here for a little while. So I still think he might get his opportunity, but it all boils down to the guys up front. I'm concerned. I think there's been some inconsistencies up front. I think there's been too much pressure off the edge, and I don't know that we've pushed people around enough in the front. Jovan Gwynn, who started every game and played virtually every snap at center, he didn't play right at the end. I think Hansen got in. Jake Hansen, the guy we signed in free agency, got in and played a little center at the end of the game. But Jovan's taken all the snaps, so he's getting a lot of experience. He's only played in 2 games as a Falcon. He played 1 game last year and 1 game prior to that. So you're not talking about Ryan Newsel sitting behind Drew Dahlman. You're talking about a guy you don't know about or hasn't played enough. And then you got a quarterback that's played 3 games that's going to be standing behind him. So that's a concern for me as far as directing traffic, being able to call things out, do things if you have to go there, because we all know 17 games, battle of attrition.
Yeah, that's one area that was a little frustrating because there was a lot of penalties that came out of that group in the first couple of games too. And so that's kind of where my eyes were going with the holding penalties and false starts and everything. So that's got to be better. You have to be able to win at the line of scrimmage, and you can only win if you can stay on schedule and play with good mechanics and technique. You guys talked about the run game, and I don't want to take anything away from Carter, but if you take away his touchdown, they still only average 2.8 yards a carry, right? And I don't want to take it away because he earned it, and the offensive line and the entire offense did earn it, but it wasn't a dominating running performance aside from one really good run. It has to be better. We know it will when you bring the 2 running backs in that Atlanta has to work with.
Well, one thing that is cool about that, though, is explosive run. We've been kind of waiting, even though Bijan had a big year, 1,400 yards rushing, and Tyler got out and did some stuff. Haven't seen the explosive to the house type runs. I know that's something they've talked about with Bijan, and maybe even working on how he makes moves and guys at the 3rd level to try to get free and take that home run shot. He's capable of doing that, as is Tyler. But it was kind of neat to see, even though it was backup guys in there, to see the home run on the run game. We haven't seen that much.
I agree with you. Hopefully there are a lot more home runs. Real quick, I'll just add mine is going to be the defensive front, right? That's the group that I want to look at. Obviously, you've got and it's almost like when I say defensive front, I got to throw in the front 7 just because there's some new names. And obviously, Jalen Walker's going to swing a little bit. Divine Diablo is going to be in there, new face. But then the defensive line, right? Braylon Trice coming back from injury. Morgan Fox coming over. Ororo, Harrison. I mean, obviously the new guys. What is all that going to look like? Because, again, there is a math situation here, and they can only have so many guys. Which ones have done enough, even probably more so in camp practices than it is in preseason games? Obviously, that's still very important. But I'm interested to see what that group is because that group has to produce this year. I mean, it's under the microscope. I mean, you invested 2 first-round picks there. Hopefully those guys are able to help you pay off. But it's not all on Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr. It's that entire group along with the front 7, the linebackers behind them. But how can you put more pressure on opposing offense? How can you put more pressure on Baker Mayfield coming out the gate? Right? So what does that front look like when roster cutdown comes, and then who's ready to go out and ball in 25?
I think that's a great call because we think about – a lot of people think about the edge rushers, and that's what all the focus has been about is trying to get edge rushers who can get around the corner. But I think they have assembled a group of guys in that front 7, like you mentioned, that can all get to the quarterback. You're talking about Caden Ellis is a game record when you're talking about rushing the passer from his linebacker spot. You bring in another athletic guy in Divine Diablo who we've seen in practice. It's hard for those guys to get to him on that second level because of his speed. So you add, obviously, Leonard Floyd on the outside who's been doing it, 5-6 years, 8+ sacks. I mean, you got guys who have proven that they can get to the quarterback. Now you add those other pieces to it. Can those guys be that cohesive unit, and can Oberg get the most out of those guys? Because like you mentioned, it's go time for up front. We've talked about it long enough. You got guys in place now to go do it. You want to see it happen.
Yeah, it's got to be disruptive, not just in the pass game as Shock's talking about. We got to disrupt the run game. No question about it. And you're dead on, Shock, Rack, when you start talking about that group being disruptive in every phase of the game. You know, Bucky Irvin's coming week 1. He had a great year last year as a running back for Tampa Bay Bucks. Sean White's on that team. They can run the football now. That used to be a team just threw it. They can run it. You better get ready to stop the run.
All right, that's going to wrap it up here. We've been here long enough. I know we kind of started on a little college football tangent, but this part of the country, people love college football, right?
Yeah.
And the college football players end up being your next wave in the National Football League anyway.
Clones on deck, baby.
Go Cyclones.
All right, clones on deck. Go ahead. Give us the
Clones on deck in Dublin, Ireland.
the best Irish accent you've ever heard.
Awesome.
Look on the Irish, that's good.
From UGA's finest, ladies and gentlemen, that's DJ Shockley right there. That's Dave Archer. I'm Derek Rackley. We'll be back next week to break down the final preseason game and, of course, roster cut down right here on the Falcons Audible, presented by AT&T. Take care, everybody.